The Filipino Year is marked by ritual and tradition. In the season of Dayao, we will relish the preparations and celebrations that have defined our many cultures. What do we as Christians, as animists, as Islamic Filipinos value most? And how do we mark our years to show our collective aspirations? Tayo'y magdiwang at magpasalamat as we mark the milestones of the Filipino Year. This is Dayao, our knowledge, our pride. For me, one of the greatest tragedies of contemporary Filipino life is that fewer and fewer young Filipinos want to be farmers. Think about it. Our nation was built on the heritage of agricultural life, on a respect for the environment that nurtured good crops, on an entire system of knowledge that sustained life. The cycles of planting and harvesting nurtured not just human life, but all the forms of creative expression that dignified and enriched it. Ritual, music, chanted poetry, dance, and other forms of folk art, all intrinsically bound to the earth. On this edition of Dayao, we take a look at the time-honored rituals of the harvest in different parts of Luzon. We hear the voices of scientists and agriculturists who have melded both science and folk wisdom, and of farmers who cling tenaciously to the traditions of the planting season. We will experience a life that is bound to the good earth, the very roots we cannot deny. In the postcard Pretty Views of Fernando Amorsolo and in the beloved folk song Magtanim Ay Di Biro, we see an idyllic, romanticized view of the farmer's life. We see the brilliant sunshine and feathery clouds, but we feel neither the intense burning heat nor the threat of flooding. We see noble, cheerful farm folk smiling, but we do not see their debt-ridden lives or the darker effects of feudalism. We hear the joy of communal planting, but we have never experienced the back-breaking work. These two opposing sides are bound together in the words and the work of one farmer in Nueva Ecija, the province known as a rice bowl of the Philippines.
Ako si Cesar Milyari, 40 years na akong nagtatrabaho sa bukid. Ang pagsasaka namin dito ay 2 beses sa isang taon. Ang unang cropping namin, yung tinatawag na main crop, is nag-uumpisa kami ng May o kaya June. Tapos mag-aani kami ng mga October, kaya November. Pahinga ng konti yung lupa, mga December, magsi-second cropping na naman kami. Aanihin namin ng March, ganyan, April. Bago magtanim, ang una, kung tanim na transplanting, kung bagang tinatawag, magpupunla ka muna ng binhi. Pupunla mo, halimbawa yung sa akin, 3/4. Ang pinupunla ko dyan, mga 1 kaban at kalahati. Ganyan. Ipupunla mo yung palay. Tapos pagka may 1 buwan na, ganyan, o kaya 25 days, pwede mo nang itanim. Ngayon, yung tatamnan mo, siyempre, aararuhin mo muna. Papatubigan. Kung wala pang ulan, patubig sa generator. Pagka napatubigan mo na, araruhin, lilinisan, kukuligligin, ganyan. Tapos pagka may 25 days na o isang buwan yung punla, pwede nang itanim.
Pero yung pagtubo po ng palay, ilang buwan yan?
Depende sa binhi naman na bibilhin mo at ipupunla mo. Meron yung 112 days, merong 100 days, merong 90 days, ganyan. Hindi pare-parehas. Sa akin, mga 3/4 lang yung talagang sarili ko. Kung maganda ang pag-aalaga, nakakaani ka naman ng mga 80, ganyan. Kagaya niyan sa akin, nung naanihan ko ng medyo maganda-ganda, naka-80 kaban na palay. Pero pagka minalas-malas naman at nasira o kaya damo, kakaani ka ng 30, ganyan, 20. Sana mabigyan din naman sana kami ng mga gaya ng mga pagkukuhanan ng tubig para dito sa amin na kagaya ng mga iba dyan, nandun sa taas. Paano makakapagsaka? Wala namang kukuhanan ng tubig. Kaya yun ang pinapanawagan namin dito sa mga may kakayahan sana na mabigyan kami ng mga patubig. Tsaka yung mga presyo ng sana, palay. Sana naman, dagdagan naman dun sa mga presyo ngayon na sobrang mura.
In the Philippine Rice Institute in Nueva Ecija, the traditions of farming and the harvest meet up with agricultural science.
Sa Pilipinas, ang meron tayo ngayon sa ating koleksyon ay nasa halos 4,000 ang ating accession. So pag sinabi nating accession, ito yung mga sigurado tayong unique or kakaiba sa lahat. So nasa 4,000, halos 4,000 out of total lang 7,000 na accession natin dyan sa loob. So yung 7,000 na yun, na unique o kakaiba, ito ay binubuo pa rin ng traditional rice varieties, yung halos 4,000 at kasama rin yung mga foreign na kinolekta rin natin.
How does a government institution help the traditional farmers level up while respecting the time-honored ways of Filipino farmers?
Ginagawa natin ang conservation, kailangan natin makipagkausap sa coordinator o yung mga nasa indigenous communities, lalo na kailangan natin ng mas makipag-ugnayan sa kanila dahil kailangan natin ipaliwanag na itong pagkokolekta natin ay may mahalaga sa kinabukasan din ng magiging kinabukasan ng kanilang lahi. So, ginagawa natin ito after natin makipag-usap sa kanila. Titignan natin kung ano yung mga available na traditional rice varieties sa kanila. Pagkuha natin ito, mayroong kinukuha tayo na passport data. Ito yung parang minimum na information na kaugnay nitong mga varieties na to para mababalikan siya in the future. Tapos, pag nakuha na natin itong mga traditional rice varieties natin, dadalhin natin siya dito sa ating gene bank. So, ito yung tinatawag na ex situ conservation na maaaring short term at maaaring long term. So, yung short term, pwede natin siyang pag-aralan agad or gamitin ng ating mga researcher. Yung long term naman, ito yung pwedeng tumagal na naka-imbak sa negative 20 degrees for 50 or up to 99 years.
Ito po yung gene bank at ito po yung seed processing laboratory namin. Ito yung mga samples ng mga traditional varieties na tinatanim natin sa bukid natin dito. But actually po ito ay mga collected from different provinces ng Pilipinas. Ayan, tinatanim natin dito para ma-seed multiply at ma-assure na mataas yung viability ng seeds bago itago. Tapos after po nito, ito po yung seed cleaning namin. Bali, sort yung good seeds saka iniwalay yung mga impurities, infected, yun. Ito po yung aming long-term storage. Ang mga different varieties din po siya na mga palay, mga traditional sa foreign varieties, saka may mga modern varieties na rin po dito nakatago.
Sa traditional rice varieties, ang kagandahan ngayon, may mga farmer tayo na nagtatanim ng traditional rice varieties na willing naman gumamit ng mga modern tools natin tulad ng microtiller na akma lang doon. Halimbawa, nito yung sa Ifugao, pwede na gumagamit sila ng microtiller na hindi siya ganun kalaki na makina sa pag-prepare ng land. So, isa yun sa mga intervention na napapabilis yung pag-prepare nila ng land kaysa dun sa traditional nila na pagtapak lang ng pag-prepare ng land, which is mas matagal na process. May mga adapters na rin tayo na gumagamit ng micromill na instead na manual yung pagbabayo ng palay.
Despite this modernization, sa mga ibang lugar, marami pa rin gumagamit ng mga traditional farming practices. Like, for example, in yung pinaka-popular ngayon, in Banawe, they still have their rituals on rice farming. They still have their traditional rice varieties. They still practice yung kanilang storage and then yung post-production ritual practices. The farmers are supported by the government in so many ways. One is training. So, tinitrain na yung ibang farmers on modern farming technologies para mas dumami yung ani nila, mas hindi mahirap yung rice production processes through mechanization. Tapos, nag-introduce na nga ng modern varieties na mas malaki yung ani at kung saan mas malaki yung magiging kita nila. We also educate the youth kasi medyo matanda na po ang average age ng ating mga farmers. Ang average age natin ngayon ay nasa 57. So growing old. So we're trying to reach out sa ating mga kabataan para ma-encourage din sila to go into agriculture. Kasi otherwise mamamatay po ang ating rice farming traditions. Kasi ang akala nila mahirap ang mag-farm. Nasa likod nun, ang dami palang mga pwedeng opportunities na i-venture ng mga kabataan natin. Like they can be scientists, they can be entomologists, they can be development communicators, or they can be like us, they can be anthropologists who studies the culture of the rice farmers. Hindi lang siya yung naiiwan ka sa bukid at naiinitan ka or it's a back-breaking toil, sabi nila. But there's more opportunity and fun sa rice farming.
In the pahiyas of Lukban, the bounty of the fields and orchards become artworks in themselves, like the paintings of Amor Solo. The colorful displays have become a part of our collective imagination, another pretty picture of how abundant the harvest can be. But the displays that so captivate our eyes are first and foremost a prayer of thanks to San Isidro Labrador, the patron saint of farmers.
Si San Isidro kinikilala na isang secondary patron ng Philippines. Bakit? Yun ang ating bansa. It is an agricultural country. Di kaya nga, kahit siya ay hindi Pilipino, siyang niyayakap natin. Dahil sabi nga, ito yung santo na kung saan tayo may mga devotion na sa pamagitan ng ating paglapit, pagdadasal sa kanila, ito yung sabi nga, merong blessing na kapalit. Ito yung siyang mga ngalaga sa ating halamanan, sa ating taniman, At dahil dito ang kanyang naging buhay. Sabi nga, sa buhay ni San Isidro ang kanyang pinagsama, yung tinatawag na ora et labora, prayer and work.
According to legend, Isidro was a Spanish farm worker known for his devoutness and piety. It is said that he would spend his time in the fields praying, while an angel would tend the oxen at the plow. Others would wonder why his fields were so fertile, while all he seemed to do was pray. One day, his landlord visited the field and saw for himself the angel at work. Awestruck, the landlord knelt before the humble and pious farmer. The elements of his iconography, the angel and ox, the landlord kneeling in amazement, are found in the beloved Santo paraded around Lucban, Quezon.
Bilang pagpapasalamat, kapag dumarating ang Feast of Saint Isidore, nagpupunta sila sa simbahan. At pagpunta nila sa simbahan, every May 15, dala nila yung kanilang harvest. It's either palay, gulay, prutas, alin man na galing. It is a sign of their thanksgiving, pasasalamat kay San Isidro. Yung kanilang mga products sa harap ng simbahan at doon ibe-bless ng pari pagdaan ni San Isidro. Tapos nag-evolve pa, after noon, dahil dinadaanan na yung mga bahay, ang ginawa na nila, instead na binibes na ganun, i-decorate na. Kaya nga salitang pahiyas. Ipinapahiyas na nila at sa pagdaan ng prosesyon ni San Isidro, yun ang kanilang paraan na pagpapasalamat kay San Isidro sa pamagitan ng paglalagay ng pahiyas sa kanilang lugar.
Ang history ng keeping making, nag-umpisa pa po yan ng panahon ng Kastila ng galleon trade. Ang isa pong lukbanin na sa pangalan ni Ginoong Juan Plasencia, siya po isang culinary artist na gusto niya yung mga pagluluto. Nakarating po yan ng Mexico. At doon po niya nakita yung pagkain tacos ng Mexican. Kaya sabi niya, siguro pwede rin yun sa galapong sa natural na bigas natin sa Pilipinas. Kaya nung bumalik po siya ng Pilipinas, nag-invento po siya ng paggawa ng keeping sa pamamagitan ng galapong na giniling na bigas na nagresulta sa galapong. Ang original po ng keeping ay yung ginagawa po natin sa dahon ng saba. Nung maluto na po niya yung keeping at nakita niyang hindi niya kayang tanggalin sa dahon, pinilad niya sa araw nung maluto nung ibilad niya sa araw ang keeping na niluto niya, pumuputok ang keeping. Kaya sabi niya, siguro hangin lang ang nagtutuyo dito. Kaya isinabit na lang muna niya ang keeping. Yun, doon niya na alaman na ang keeping pala hindi pwedeng ibilad sa araw.
How resonant the tableau must have been to the Filipino farmers toiling under feudal landlords. It is this faith in blessing of divine abundance and the intercession of San Isidro that inspire this fanciful harvest.
Salamat sa magandang ani na binibigay ng Panginoon para sa mga magsasaka at isa rin din pong tradisyon ng mga magsasaka na para magbalik tangkilik po na yung ibang inaani naming halaman o gulay, niaali naman namin sa kanya para balik tangkilik sa kanyang pinagkaloob sa mga magsasaka. Pinakahinihiling po namin doon ay talagang pagbiyayaan pa kami ng magagandang ani dito sa aming pagsasaka. Basta't lahat ng tungkol po sa pagsasaka ay kumari bigyan kami ng magagandang ani para hindi po mabaliwala yung aming pagpapagod. Masuportahan ng mga taong bayan na umaasa sa pagsasaka dahil kung wala po magsasaka, baka po walang kainin ang mga taong bayan natin na lalo sa bigas.
Sabi ko nga lagi, mabuti sa tao ang marunong magpasalamat. Tingnan mo ngayon, mahirap ang buhay. Pero sa kabila ng mahirap ang buhay, kahit yung mga pobreng mga bahay, hindi naman sila konkreto, hindi simento, pero gumagastos nilalagay. Bakit? It is ang uri ng kanilang pagpapasalamat kahit noon pa man na ang tao, ang mga lukbanin, marunong magpasalamat sa Diyos. At yung festival na ito isang paraan ng kanilang pagpapasalamat sa Diyos.
A lesser-known festival also closely related to the planting and harvesting of rice is the Imbaya Festival of the Ifugao. Like the Pahiyas, it has roots in the agricultural cycle of a community. Like the Pahiyas, it has become a way of proudly proclaiming a people's identity while attracting tourists.
The term Imbaya comes from the word bayah, which means the rice wine. We celebrate the Imbaya to showcase our cultural practices, our dances, our ethnic games, and to showcase our native attire.
But far away from the festivities in the central town of Banaue, the back-breaking labor of maintaining the payo or rice paddies goes on. The Ifugao rice cycle is perhaps the most complex among Filipino traditional cultures. Each stage is marked by communal effort, by specific rituals, and by social responsibilities.
Ang orpi, kung matapos naming magtanim, mag-orpi na kami at saka magpapasalamat para protektaran namin yung palay. Kasi yung mga namin noon, old custom na sinasabi yung mga apo namin para ma-protektahan yung palay. Hindi kakainin yung mga daga, yung mga palay. Yan ang custom yung mga apo namin noon. Kaya hanggang ngayon, ipe-perform namin yung orpi na ritual na sinasabi.
Humalupan ako niya na bukoy mo.
The bulul is the iconic sculpture that links the Ifugao to the rice cycle. In this rare footage of a harvest in Bayninan, the social structure and mythology of a traditional Ifugao society are revealed with the harvest as a backdrop. In traditional Ifugao society, the largest fields are owned by the Tomona. His fields are the first to be planted and harvested. His neighbors are also obliged to help him before they can plant and harvest their own fields. In return, the Tomona is obliged to feed them and offer sacrificial animals. In Bayninan, David Candelario is a Tomona, a position he inherited from his father. In this rare footage, the Mumbaki of the village conduct the harvest ritual where the women work in the fields. Other women are busy in the open-air kitchens preparing food for the whole assembly. Then, just as the harvesters come in with the first sheaves of rice, the heirloom bulul of the Candelario family are brought down from the alang or granary. The bulul are brought down in a ceremonious manner, stopping at each step of the ladder, while the Mumbaki chants a prayer for the bulul deities to descend from the sky world and join the harvest ritual in Bayninan. Then, the bulul are ceremonially adorned with a rice stalk earring plucked from the new harvest, after which they bathed in blood and then offered skewers of meat from the freshly butchered pigs. All the while, life goes on. Ritual chanting, harvesting, cooking, feasting. A harvest in Ifugao blends the spirit world and the world of men, all set against an environment that is rough but forgiving of those who work it.
The traditional values of agricultural society are based on a sense of devotion to the community. Without community, you cannot do agriculture. At the same time, in order to strengthen the sense of community, people find the need to be devoted to a higher being, like a sacred figure, like a patron saint. Because the more you become devoted to a higher being, like a patron saint, the more there's an organizing principle in the society. Now, with the patron saint as the object of devotion, people become organized. They develop a stronger sense of community that is necessary for agricultural work. This is the reason why agricultural societies have a very strong sense of community. You cannot tend the fields if you don't have patience, if you don't have diligence, if you don't have a great capacity for work. So one virtue that you find in agricultural societies is patience. The painstaking work that you need to do in order to plant, in order to harvest, and in order to work in the fields is tremendous. That's why this is another quality of agricultural people. They're very patient. And even their concept of love has to do with patience, because in order to test a person's character, whether the person is ready for love or raising a family, you have to find out whether this person has enough patience to work for the family. That's why even the courtship practices in agricultural societies require that the male serve the family of the female for months or even years to find out the strength of character to support a family. So devotion to a higher being, to bind the community, to strengthen the sense of community, and patience, and painstaking attention to detail.
For many urbanized Filipinos, the traditional practices that attend planting and harvesting may seem so far removed from the so-called real life. But our roots in agriculture go deeper than we think, in the way we are suddenly more aware of our responsibilities to the earth and the environment, in the way we want our meals served with rice, in the way we are now so conscious about organic produce, about homegrown foods, in the way we all look forward to simpler, less complicated but focused lives. Binhi, pagtanim, pag-ani, all these are in our national DNA. We cannot afford to be ignorant or lose contact with the cycle of agriculture and what it represents. So much of Dayao, our knowledge, our pride.